So does anyone here not know what a GIF is? Okay, just checking. I think it's a home crowd, Alex.
Yeah.
So you're an intelligent guy. How did this all happen?
I don't know about that. How did the gift thing
How
happen?
did you end up having...
It all started with a conversation at a bar. We were drinking, and
As it so often does.
yeah, pretty much. And we were just talking about, we were both philosophy majors in school, and we were talking about the limitations of language and Wittgenstein and just being super nerdy. And we figured out that we were looking at GIFs as kind of, we were like, oh, GIFs. It's kind of a representation of what we're talking about. Like, it's the start of this new kind of visual language that, and a lot of us had gone to art school, that hasn't really been explored yet. So we started looking for search engine. We went to Google to try to find GIFs. Google hadn't done it. How many times has Google not done something? And so we started this company called Gifgle. And then we found out that that would be like the worst name ever, and then we changed the name to Giphy.
How were you spelling that?
Gifgle. It's really hard to spell. But yeah, so then after that, we started indexing the internet just like Google did, because no one had done it at that point. And 3 years later, here we are.
Are you making any money?
No.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Who wants to make money? Making money is for serious people.
I jest, but this is a hugely important cultural phenomenon, I think we can call it, can't we? If emojis are now in a really important way that a whole generation are expressing themselves, then GIFs are even more so, aren't they? How are those two related?
Yeah, emojis are, there are only about 1,000 emojis in the world. So emojis are I think of emojis as kind of like the 1980s. It's like these small little black and white and like yellow and red things that people use to try to express themselves in really complicated ways. And GIFs are more the HD, the 4K version of those. So you have 1,000 emojis, but you have millions and millions of GIFs. How do you even express like the happiness of anything in like yellow and red color when you can express it in any type of different ways from GIFs?
This is a very good point. Let's just go back to GIFs as a phenomenon for the moment. Can you illustrate the scale of Giphy? Like, how many GIFs are people using and accessing and sharing?
Yeah, so we serve now, we've probably served over 500 billion GIFs in the last 3 years, so that's about 500 billion GIFs. We serve billions of GIFs a day. We're probably one of the largest media providers mobily in the world that no one really knows about yet. We have about 150 million unique visitors that come to all the Giphy properties. So we're pretty big. I think we just passed people.com as a publication on the internet. That was our goal.
And how many people do you have?
We have about 60 people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people working on GIFs.
Yeah.
A lot of times people think it's really, we joke about it, like they think it's me and in the basement eating potato chips. And they're like, oh, nice website you made. And I'm like, that's actually 60 people working on this.
Well, you're self-deprecating in a rather English way. But this is a very successful, impactful business, and you're starting to have deals with the studios, because a lot of your GIFs are made from films. And tell us more about that.
So when you would think that most of the GIFs out there would be cats and funny things, and there are a lot of cat GIFs out there. But in the very first few months, we did an analysis of all the GIFs, and we found out that they were primarily 80% of all the GIFs that are being viewed are TV, movie, celebrities. And so with that knowledge, what we did was we went and started day one making licensing deals with all of the major movie producers, TV studios, because we knew that there's this weird, like, you can go with this argument of fair use where you can take other people's content, and it's really hard to monetize now. You see most of the companies that are using that on the West Coast are having hard times trying to monetize against other people's content, and we didn't want to get into that situation. So we were above board, and we licensed all of this. And so now we're seeing, we do all of the official GIFs for Game of Thrones. We do pretty much every movie that's out there. We have blanket rights with our partners at Fox and pretty much everywhere. So that allows us to really take these GIFs, make them legit on the internet, also get the high def versions because they're giving the content to us directly. Also have really good metadata, which has been a big problem back in the day because how do you tag all this media that's coming in? And then we also extend those rights to anyone who uses our API to create any kind of products off that content.
What about the demographics of the people that are using and sharing GIFs? Is it right to assume that this is largely a millennial phenomenon?
Yeah, it's always going to start with the people who are easily adopting technology. But this is just, I mean, if you think about it, it's just year one. Facebook just adopted GIFs this year. Twitter, and within the last year, Twitter, Tinder, all just did it within March. So we're just kind of at year one where GIFs have become mass accepted. In the next few years, you'll see it starting to become more and more mass popular. And people will kind of figure out, how many years did it take for emojis? It took like 10 years for people to figure out. My mom is sending me emojis. I think that probably took like 10, 15 years. And she almost sent me a GIF. It didn't quite work. but we do see a lot of GIFs. GIFs aren't really, the notion of a GIF really isn't generational. It's just the technology to use them is.
Well, it's harder to make them and put them in emails, not obviously if you're even vaguely technical, but as a mainstream proposition, it's sort of, even within Gmail, it's relatively fiddly to embed a GIF.
Yeah, but we do have that Gmail plugin. So if you didn't know, Giphy has a plugin for Chrome and also for Gmail, also for Slack, for pretty much anything, any platform you're at. So if you download the Gmail plugin, there'll be a little Giphy button that will let you automatically insert GIFs into every email that you do. We're also in MailChimp. If you ever send out newsletters, you can directly inject GIFs into your newsletters as well.
So you mentioned before that Google doesn't allow you to search for emotions. And you've said before, you've talked about this humanitarian search. How do you make search more emotional and more cultural and more kind of relevant? Because PageRank was designed to be quite utilitarian.
Yeah, so when Google's great, and they did a really good job of indexing most of the reference material in the world in the 90s. So if you're talking about 93, 94, when they were developing this, they built an algorithm to index all of the information that was mostly referential information, that people were academic information. And since then, the internet has grown. All of the information, we have media, we have social media, we have films, TV, we have culture, we have entertainment. The amount of information that has been put onto the internet is way beyond what PageRank was designed to really index. And so you see, what you're really seeing is a lack of the ability of PageRank to index more complicated aspects of humanity. So things like emotion, expression, those were kind of largely forgotten by PageRank. So what we're trying to do is and we laugh about this, we're trying to really create like the first humanist search engine. What would the search engine be for everything outside of the library? Like, how do you, an example of this is, you never search Google for happy, sad, angry. There's an entire range of expression that where is there to search? But that's an essential part of our humanity, right? So we have all of these aspects of human culture that just aren't part of the internet. And Google being the largest indexer and organizer of that is kind of like this robot that has no human feelings. It's like HAL, just kind of controlling your life and the information. And all this information was created by people with expression, with emotion, with all of the aspects of humanity built into this. And we're translating it into this algorithm that was just meant to organize library books and reference material. So I get this. That's a long rant to say. Giphy is about trying to index everything else that Google isn't doing.
As a form of language, GIFs are very interesting, though, because often they're sent as a kind of in-joke. And certainly, if it's a GIF from a film, you have to have seen that film, and there are lots of sort of implicit cultural references inside it. They're more complicated than they seem.
Yeah. I think if you look at the evolution of language, I was an immigrant, and when I first learned English, I was just saying yes, no, hello, and nodding, and my parents still don't speak English. They pretty much just say that. And so when you first start out, it's very literal and like humor-based. And as soon as you get you have control of the language and you understand, there's a lot of complexity of how you want to express yourselves in the world. So at first we saw that with GIFs. It was funny, kind of America's Funniest Home Video, cat, funny GIFs. And now you're seeing people, now that they have the fluency of the language, being super, super subtle with how they're sending information and communicating with people, that you're able to put a lot of what you're thinking about within like in-jokes, right? Like I can pull something from Ryan Gosling's like library of GIFs and send it to you in a way and be like, I'm talking to you in that notebook kind of way, but not really that notebook kind of way, because that was kind of a little too emotional and being more, and that has never really been able to be done before. And the more evolved the language becomes, and again, we're at year 1 right now, where it just got onto Facebook, Twitter. As people get more comfortable with this, you're going to see a lot more languages and small vocabularies and idiomatic expressions being created visually, which is good for everyone.
Let's talk about you. You've been this is your 12th startup, I think.
Yeah, I've been doing startups for a while.
For a long time.
That means they've probably all failed. That's why I'm still here.
Failure is actually a way of learning, is what we decided.
That's right.
Didn't we?
And also, like for me, we talked about you went to art school, I went to art school. Like for me, startups aren't necessarily about business. They're mostly about just creating. I'll probably do after this. I'll do another one. And if you're a startup founder here, most likely you're probably going to keep doing this. Like if you're Michelangelo and you create the you're not going to stop after that, right? You're going to keep making work, even if it's bad and fails.
So you said to me earlier that engineers are artists.
Yeah.
Talk a bit more about that.
I think engineers have, and I came from an engineering background. Engineers used to not, artists, we talked about this backstage, artists have gotten this reputation of being these cool people who have ideas and want to produce and create things in the world. But that's exactly what engineers want to do. Like engineers have this drive to use mathematics as their medium and engineering tools and software to create, and they just want to make things. Like engineers are makers. And they just haven't, until recently, been popularized by the media as like these creative types. But if you look at, we were saying, I have a lot of friends, artist friends in Brooklyn, and if you take a picture of them and you take a picture of like nerdy startup dudes, they pretty much look the same. Like I probably can't, like half of you are probably artists because you haven't showered in a while, and half of you are probably engineers because you also haven't showered in a while.
Might be a generalization, but just go with it. But it is really interesting. Also, going to a lot of sort of startup conferences, I think the evidence of the patterns of people that you see presenting are often very extrovert. But the nature of being a creative person is sometimes that you are a little more introvert and perhaps collaborative. What have you noticed?
Yeah, I can tell you, if you're an artist and you're making work, you've spent probably, and as an engineer, you've probably spent so much time in your basement alone. That's the only way to work, right? I've probably spent a quarter of my life alone looking at a screen with like a bunch of words in front of me. And that takes a type of, you have to be like you can't actually like going out and doing things all the time. Otherwise you would never make anything. So you have this dichotomy of people who like to be alone to create, but then need to go out and express and show people their work. And I think that's always been the hard part. And that's why a lot of the startup systems and the founder systems and conferences get people out of their basements and get people to show. So anytime you see a demo day, that's kind of like an art show. That's like a coming out of people showing their work. And now people are getting popularized. You can make money off of it. Like when artists started making money, startup people can make money. So it's a weird balance between introverts and extroverts.
Did you feel that you might want somebody to go out and do this kind of stuff so that you could concentrate on the process?
In terms of going out in the world and doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly you are out in the world.
Oh yeah, I guess I'm out here.
If you naturally enjoy the creative process more.
I'm a creator. I like making things. People ask me like, oh, do you like being CEO? And we joke, being the CEO of a company or a founder is one of the worst things you could possibly do. It's like, you just want to make things, and now you have to start a business, and then you have to make sure my first job is to make sure everyone that works with me is happy and that they're doing things. Like you have so much responsibility, and most of my time now isn't spent making anything. It's really making sure that other people can make things. And if, yeah, like, there's lots of parts of me that just want to make things all day. And that's the hard part. That's the difference between being an artist and being in business.
Yeah. Let's go back to GIFs. That was a very interesting tangent, though. So where is this all headed? I don't know how long you're going to be doing Giphy, and clearly this is going to become a more mainstream. Is it an art form or is it a medium? Whatever. But
Medium begets art.
medium begets art, yes, perhaps. Where is this going? Where are GIFs going to be in, say, 5 years?
So it makes sense that where I see it is every still image you see on the internet will eventually move to a moving image. There's just more information that you can pack into a moving image than you can a still image. So there's some consequences of what happens when the technology, like, it's mostly that technology hasn't been there and the processing power hasn't been there to move every still image to a moving image. I mean, think about Harry Potter, right? Like, all the newspapers, everything's moving. Like, we all know that this world is coming. And it will happen the next 5, 10 years where everything still will be moving. And that's actually really exciting for me, because that, like, going back to humanity and emotion, that is going to allow another level of expression in humanity to go across media and the internet. Right now, the internet is really a very sterile place. It's very algorithmic, it's very text-driven. It doesn't have that quality of expression and emotion and humanity that GIFs convey. And as soon as everything goes moving, the internet will become a whole other place. It will be more representational of how we actually exist in the world. And so I think the future is, like, imagine like, I always remember the first time I saw a Polaroid picture, and I was like, it was kind of life-changing. I was like, I am holding a piece of the world in my hands. It was so weird. And from time, and then imagine if that was moving, and you're holding a piece of, like, happiness in your hand, and just the ability to hold expression and human thought in your hands and all over the internet, everything you're looking, that will change the way that we perceive the world and also interact with everyone.
What's your 13th startup going to be? Would it be moving Polaroids?
Someplace on a beach selling coconuts.
A beach startup.
Yeah, something with beach. AI is really interesting. Just listening to the speakers here, I think that is a really interesting feat, because our evolution isn't really moving fast enough to keep up with what we want to do. So we kind of have to, like, supersede our evolution. Our brains are just, like, not smart enough. Email's a big problem lately. I've been thinking about email a while. I don't know about you, but email's like the biggest. Someone needs to go. Please, someone go fix email. Email's like the biggest problem in the world.
It's been great talking to you, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.